and we are good to go. Here we are. Oh, man. Oh, man. Here we are. This is fantastic. Thank you for being here. This is wonderful. I'm going to minimize this just so I can see the screen more clearly. And yeah, we're off to the races. We're doing great. This is fun. So, ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, hello, and welcome to the very last Monday night chat of 2021. They're coming back in 2022. Don't freak out. It's just that, I'm taking a few days off. I'm going to probably be saying this like a lot tonight, and that's fine. But this is the last Monday night I'm going to work for this year. I'll be back in January. And I wanted to take this time tonight to really lay a lot of stuff out because I've been streaming now a couple months. Hello, good evening. Hi. Yeah, thank you. That's very nice. I'm going to try not grinding so hard. I will be grinding on house-based things, on person things. I'm going to try to take a board and fix the couch. And I'm going to try to really I got to clean the vacuum. I got house stuff I'm excited to do. I got to clean the vacuum. That really actually makes me very happy. And I've got some odds and ends to play with and some fun new non-work related toys. So that should be fun and exciting. But mostly it's going to be nice to get away and sort of focus, spend actual days okay, what do I want to do in 2022? Because that's kind of the first big thing I learned in 2021. I'm somebody who, there's a sweet spot of planning for me. And I didn't realize this. For some things, like an edit, if you say, hey, John, come edit my book. I will plan it like I'm invading some kind of war front. I will launch a massive campaign into the workload. There will be, strategy sessions held in showers and at lunches and randomly while I'm folding socks and when I'm sitting on there will always be some kind of strategy, gear spinning process for this. But when it comes to streaming, outside of the writer's chat, which gets rehearsed nauseatingly the day of, as I bounce from question to question and kind of go, okay, I want to go this way, I want to go that way. We're going to break down that whole process too. But the writer's chat gets slightly more rehearsal. Monday sometimes gets a Post-it note. Here, hang on. Gets a Post-it note, maybe to kind of keep me on track because, as someone lovingly put it once in a comment, John, you tend to roam when you speak, and I think that's the nicest way of saying I'm all over the place. Tonight, though, there's no Post-it note. Tonight, I've been doing errands and big things for the last couple hours, so it's really nice to sit in not a car and talk to you now because I was in a car all day, and it's really nice to be here instead. So, mouthful of tea, and back to my point. So, I'm somebody who needs a sweet spot, and there is a right amount of planning, and there is a right amount of transforming the idea from a partial idea into I think this is how I'm going to do it kind of idea. And I never would have learned that without streaming. That's, I think, the first of what will be many realizations and discussion points over the course of this, however long this stream is. Because what I want to do tonight, what's really, really critical to me that I do tonight, is lay out all the things I have learned in the very short time so far I've been streaming. I don't want to make this sound fatalistic. It's not like I'm giving up forever. I'm going on goddamn vacation. But all the same, I've learned a lot. And I'm somebody who can learn a lot in a short period of time. Maybe that's because, I'm a junkie and, you learn pretty quick when the world burns and you burn your bridges. Or maybe I'm just an autodidact who does well when given all the tools and left to his own devices. Usually. I don't know. But all the same, I've learned stuff. And I've learned, first and foremost, the big thing that streaming, just in general, the setup and the material and the doing of it, really mirrors the creative writing a book process in scary ways. I mean, yeah, it's talking versus typing, but all the same, it has a lot of similar components. And again, I didn't know any of this coming in. I knew like, oh, I got to use this software. I got to talk into this microphone. I got to, move this thing and click this button and set this setting. But in terms of filling the space and in terms of covering material and hoping upon hope that somebody out there somewhere was maybe kind of sort of paying attention consistently, absolutely a thing I never counted on. Never a thing I thought twice about. Initially, it was out of arrogance. I'll just flat out say initially it was right out of arrogance. It was this idea of like, I'm me. Who wouldn't want to talk to me? I'm me. It's great. People talk to me, or they used to. Here's the critical thing. They used to talk to me all the time. I was in situations, I was in groups, I was in communities, whatever you want to call them, where I made myself the center of a 3-ring circus. And the 3-ring circus is a lot of fun. But the 3-ring circus generally has abused animals in it, and cages and whips and spotlights, and that can all lead to a lot of really intense things that leave their mark on you, for good or for ill. And I spent a lot of 2020 and 2021 really getting away from that, because it doesn't serve me. And the problem is that transformation didn't reach the entirety of like my ego and my work process. So I thought when I just sat down to stream, it would be like, oh shit, John is streaming. And it would just be like, this massive like yard party that all the kids would pull up to, and, people would, flip open their hatchbacks and pull out kegs, and somebody would have a party sub all week, and it would just be this constant raucous things. Thank you so much for subscribing. I genuinely appreciate that. But I thought it would be this big raucous thing, right? Oh my God, the little logo showed up. Nice. I made it blue. I'm very pleased with myself. I was expecting this sort of baked in audience. And, I just assumed. And that was the worst thing. Maybe not the worst thing, but certainly in the top 3 of the bad things I could possibly do. And that's really where I started to notice that streaming, as an extension of what I do, very much connects to the writing a book stage. So when we're writing whatever it is we're writing, whatever genre we're writing, to whatever audience we're writing, when we're new at this, we so often think initially like, I got this great idea. I can totally do this. I've written casually when there are no stakes, when there's nothing really on the line. I've done, NaNoWriMo. I've entered bullshit contests. I've, just kind of hacked around and done whatever. I can write. And you don't really know what you're committing to. You don't really know exactly the extent of it. You just feel like you can do it because you've got slightly anecdotal evidence and a little bit of arrogance and a little bit of ignorance, frankly. And you just sort of push into it and you get into it and you figure, well, just like everything else in the world, there's so many things in your life. You'll figure out how to fly as you're falling down. You'll flap your arms and you'll either fly or you'll fall, and you'll figure it out as you go. And that's a great strategy when you're doing something with minimal stakes. That's a fantastic strategy for when you're like learning how to tie shoes, or you are just getting better at folding t-shirts, or perhaps doing something with very minimal investment and engagement. It is a less successful strategy when you are trying to have people consistently come and listen to you, or when you are trying to have people read what you are saying. Because without some kind of education, without some kind of skill and education underneath it, it's not going to go in the way you want it to go. And when I started streaming, I had the technology. I don't have a $6 million man sound, I don't think. I think it's on the laptop. I have the technology. I've got the big board. I've got the sliders. I've got the microphone. I've got, all the bits and bells and whistles and everything. But I didn't know how really to just do it, because I'm on a platform that is dominated with visual media. Dominated. Whether we are talking about video games and 8 million flavors of video games, whether we are talking about podcasts, whether we are talking about just people chatting. The thing that they have that I don't is there's a camera on them and there's visual material on them. And that patches up a multitude of issues because, well, when in doubt, you can just look at something and the audience stays engaged. This is very similar, I think, to when you're writing and you're just kind of lobbing the idea out there and hoping somebody somewhere's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I get it. I see what you're trying to say, and I dig it. That blind ignorance will carry you pretty far in a first draft, right? Like, I'm just writing and I'm digging the story and it's going well for me. So presumably my enthusiasm will translate across the airwaves or across the ether or whatever so that other people will enjoy it too. And that's great up to a point, but then you hit this wall where you start getting resistance. Now, whether that resistance is yourself or that resistance comes from other people who are, giving you shit for doing what you love. Now, if for my case, for streaming, it was self-based resistance. The idea of like, I got to do this every week and hope it makes enough money to feed my cats. Oh man. Okay. Well, I better get to it. Which means I have to figure out what I'm going to cover. And we'll talk more about this shortly, but in figuring out, particularly on Mondays, what exactly to talk about, I am frequently stymied. Not so much in terms of potential topics. I got topics out the wazoo. But there's a really interesting thing that happens. Because I can pick a topic on a Monday that is deep, like real deep. Like we can talk about multiple point of view structure and multiple character arcs and multiple plot structure and simultaneous development of all these things. That's a really heavy, somewhat complicated, somewhat bespoke, artisanal topic where everybody's going to get a tailored thing based on their own stuff. That does not translate well, frequently, to streaming media. It's great if you can pause it. It's great if you can come back and dip in and dip out and check in and check out like it's a recording. But by and large, when it comes time to do the actual talking like, hey, I'm live doing it, it's an investment. And because it's a complicated investment, and because I guess it's a Monday and there's a million things pulling people in a billion different directions, it's difficult for me to really get a sense of like, okay, yeah, this is worth it. This is what's up. I'm going to do this hardcore topic and people are going to like gravitate my way. And again, another similarity with writing is the idea that you're writing this thing and you love it. And other people are going to love it just as much as you do for whatever reason it is you love it. And they're not, because they're not you. And that's not because you wrote a bad thing. It has nothing to do with the goodness or badness of the thing. It's just the fact that you're a person and they're other people. And they will be motivated by the things they will be motivated. And it will be different than what you are motivated by because you're not the same. So when I have a Monday topic and it's light, or at least by my consideration, it's light, the response I get tells me, oh, this is going great. I totally know what I'm doing. I am kicking ass at this. Oh my God, I got a subscriber. Oh my God, I got a follower. Oh man, somebody laughed at my joke. This is great. Feed the ego. Woo, I'm a big success. And you immediately contrast that with, why is no one talking? What's up with the tumbleweeds? If I literally put cricket sound effects in the background, I'd probably get more interaction. What's going on? Maybe the topic is the problem. Maybe how I'm delivering it is a problem. And immediately the criticism comes right in, and there goes the self-resistance. Because, well, maybe I suck at this. Maybe it's great when it's just, oh, John's screwing around on Twitch again. Da, 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 da. But it's a different thing when I'm seriously trying to teach. And there have been times in 2021 where I sat here and I'm like, this is not working. I'm floundering. I should really consider, like, I don't know, dropping 5 more pounds, putting on another 5 pounds of muscle, and maybe like getting a 3 a.m. shift loading some bakery or something. I legit thought about that. If only because I thought it might let me bring home fresh bread, but that's me, and I'm pro-gluten. The important thing, though, more than my love of good crusty bread, or pretzels. I wanted to see if somebody would hook me up in pretzels. The more important thing, though, is the idea that you can't tell how well you're doing while you're doing it. Now, I'm somebody who has always struggled to take their own advice. Maybe you're somebody who's always struggled to take your own advice. Somebody comes to you with a thing, whatever it might be. You know exactly what to say. You can say it so smoothly. It comes out of your face like, oh, wow, that's real wise. Good for you. Cool. You rolled high on your D20. Sweet. And then when it comes time to apply that to your own life, you'd have a better time convincing my cat to read Shakespeare. I have struggled for a long time to take my own advice, and I tell people all the time, stop screwing with the bread dough and comparing it to somebody else's baked loaf. I'm looking at Twitch streamers, and, you know, with that data leak, I'm looking at Twitch streamers' income, and I'm looking at audiences, and I'm looking at authors, and I'm looking at other freelance editors, and I'm looking at the grifters, wondering like what the hell I'm doing wrong, because, you know, I got maybe gas money. And they're like, oh, I just signed this big deal. And, you know, I defrauded some lady out of her credit card. And allegedly this and blah, blah, whatever. And they're, you know, talking about how great it's going to be to do this. And I'm like, well, I might have to steal some cans of soup from a store. And that's a very difficult pill to swallow. That's a very tough thing to reconcile. That resistance, that idea that you all of a sudden you are out of your depth and you are suddenly failing at a thing because you're looking for an obvious indicator that you're succeeding. And to be fair, you wouldn't know what it was even if you had it, because it's not immediate, which is another correlation between streaming and writing. The response you're looking for, that praise, that, hey, good job, John. Oh my God, you're the best. Look at my butt. That kind of thing. That response is not immediate when you write, unless you are writing and 45 people are over your shoulder reading as you type, because there's always going to be that delay. Even if that delay is the 7 to 9 seconds based on my internet, when people, you know, hear the word I just said, or they catch it tomorrow on YouTube, or they catch it tomorrow on the podcast feed, or whatever, there's going to be some kind of delay. And so maybe they won't laugh at the joke. Maybe they won't go, haha, that's so funny. They won't do anything. And I have to get used to, as a creative, I have to get used to this sort of weird time dilation. I produce a thing and lob it out into the world, and when somebody else gets it, it's a different time. And that's a lot like, I'm writing this manuscript. I've got this bread dough in my oven. I'm cooking along. Other people are pulling hot, fresh loaves out left, right, and center, and I'm just working on the dough. And I got to take my own advice. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to elicit some kind of like sympathy or pity response. Oh, poor me. This is not an oh, poor me moment. I had those earlier today in the car. You guys missed it. I'm having more of a moment like, look at all the similarities. Look at all the things I can take from this time and go forward from. That's really significant to me. That's really important to me. Because without transformation, without motivation, without education, without sustenance, art dies. And when art dies, civilization crumbles. And I am not about to let civilization crumble if I can help it, because I like being part of this civilization. It has all the really fun toys. The point I'm trying to make is that the art you make, no matter how badly we demand the praise for it in the short term, we might not get that praise in the short term. You might have to wait a little bit, and that can be hard, because we are so often waiting for someone to like walk into the room and go, "Oh my God, you're the best. Here, I've made brownies for you," or, "Hey, I've just abolished this, political system, so let's celebrate with nachos." You're waiting for that immediate, you do a thing, ring the bell, dog gets a treat kind of vibe. And that's just not the case. And that's tough for me, because I so frequently feel like what I do professionally is always subject to that. Always subject to that time dilation. Always. There's always that sense of like, I tell you this thing, you're going to go take it to your chapter, and I won't see you for a week or more. And you'll figure, like you'll come back and go, I did it. Or, oh, no, I didn't do it. Or whatever. But there's always that gap. It's hard to balance. It's really hard to balance. The whole point here was just to take a look at all the different ways what's going on connects to what I do and how it can go forward. Because that is by no means where the similarities between what I've learned from streaming parallels with how to make art happen. But I do want to take a moment and barely fumble this segue, but partially fumble this segue, at least to say hello, everybody in chat. It's really nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Hi. Because I don't think I said that enough earlier when I started, because I never really have a sense when people come in. I just sort of know when you're here because you speak up. So, hi. Anyway, we're going back. So, the overall thing, I sit here with this microphone. I have this topic. I make this. I'm getting better at the graphics. That's something worth pointing out. Because I might not be getting better at topics, but I am damn sure getting better at graphics. Now, historically, I have always struggled visually, or at least with a sense of visual composition. And that comes from two things. One, I was always told by authority figures that I suck at visual composition. And two, I believed every authority figure when they told me I suck at visual composition, so I never bothered getting better. It was just like, well, John sucks at it. Ha-ha! So why, if everybody keeps telling me I suck, why should I bother? And this parallels very nicely to the creative process, because you are going to encounter people who you may consider some kind of authority figure in some way, shape, or form. Perhaps they're parents, partners, or friends, or peers, or other P words, or something. And you might hold their opinion in some kind of esteem. And their criticism or their statement of you may have a more pronounced effect on you than they likely expect or even thought of. So when enough people tell you like, oh, John, you're terrible at visual stuff, just don't even bother. And you hear that from the time you're about 4 until the time you're about, 36, 37? Yeah. Maybe, no, honestly, really, people stopped telling me when I turned 40. So from about 4 until 40, all of a sudden it was, oh, John, yeah, wow, that wasn't too bad. And then now it's like, oh, well, that's decent. Or, oh, I like the colors you picked. So I'm getting there. I'm making progress. But all the same, when you're going to encounter these people who tell you things. I didn't like your book. I didn't like your plot. It wasn't for me. I don't like your character. I can't believe they did this in the story. It's up to you to determine what you want to do with that information. You can be like me and tell them to go fuck themselves. I did that for the majority of my 20s and 30s. Some of you in chat right now were present in spaces where I told people to go fuck themselves. So that's nice. But by and large, you get to choose. And there are times when it can be enormously freeing. Absolutely the most, like, fuck yeah, cathartic mic drop moment to be there and be like, no, go suck eggs, I'm out. But there are other times when it hurts. And you say, you just want it to stop. You just want it to stop hurting. You just want to take a break. Okay, I get it. I'm not good at it. Cool. Yeah, thanks. All right. Cool. All right, let's move on. Let's get the spotlight off me. And I'll retreat a little bit. Maybe you do that too. I'll retreat a little bit. And then, internalize their statement. And then the next time it's time for me to go roll out a graphic, I'm a little bit hesitant. I'm a little bit shy about it. But that's because I've elected on some level. I've chosen. I've made a choice. Writing is still the act of making decisions. I've made a choice. I've decided to let their idea become a definition by which I will come to create something. Even though they're not currently in the room, they're not clicking the mouse, they're not lining up the text, they're not typing it out, they're not coloring anything. I've decided to let their statement, perhaps they're even somebody I don't know, but I've decided to let their statement become a guiding principle. Why? I've struggled with that. Even now, even today, right this second, it's December, what time is it? It's December the 20th. And I'm sitting here wondering, like, if I click this button, I can see who's here, and I'm pretty sure I know everybody's here. Hi, everybody I know. And I'm like, well, why didn't, like, 65 people show up? Like, yeah. And then I realized, like, I don't know 65 people. Be nice if I did. But maybe 63. Hang on, let's count some people I know. Let's assume 56 of those people would turn around and go, oh, John, this is terrible. This is not hi, hello. 56 of those people would tell me, like, oh, John, Twitch is not the place for me to come and learn about writing. What the hell are you doing? And that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. I'm getting better at it. I'm dealing with it. And I think that's a lesson to take with you towards whatever you're doing. You're going to run into your 56 people. Maybe it's 56. Maybe it's 2. Maybe it's 10. Maybe it's 30. Maybe it's 1,000. Who knows? And you get to choose what you do with their feedback. Some of it's going to be great. Some of it's going to be greatly damaging. Some of it's going to be completely out of left field. Like they're not even talking about you. They're just venting whatever they're venting. And that's true. I've had comments on the YouTube videos about like, oh my God, you know, why isn't there, there was one lady, why isn't there a recipe with this? And I was very confused because, I don't know, but at some point in the video, I must have said something about cooking something up. Maybe it was a chat question. I'm not entirely sure, but I talked about some kind of like cook or kitchen. I might have been doing the bread example about making, stories, making bread. And she got real hot in the comments about, well, where's your recipe? Whoa, slow down, lady. And it really bugged me. And I've since come to laugh about it because now my most active YouTube comments are bots, wanting me to have larger sized genitals or meeting a spouse from a different country or clicking this link and then, getting 1 million friends. The same way that bots here want to offer me all different kinds of, horseshit capitalist crypto. Or earlier today, when I was laying out the stuff for today, I had a bot come in and ask me if I wanted to get an NFT. So, no, I didn't. But it was, it's been interesting. It's been interesting. I bring that up, not the NFTs and not the bots, but the feedback or the silence and the feedback. I bring that up because that's something you're going to encounter. You're going to go make a thing that you think is banging, that you're going to love. That eventually somebody somewhere, even if they never tell you, somebody somewhere is going to listen to that or read that or check your stuff out and go, I like that. You might never hear about it. You hope you do. It'd be great if you did. You make it possible. You say, like, hey, if you like more, go check out the website or go find me online or this, that, or the other. But it is possible. If your work is already out there right now, right this second, it is possible that it is changing somebody's life and you will never know. And I think so often we end up in situations as creatives where we feel like us not knowing is evidence of failure. I need to know I'm changing lives. I need to know it's succeeding. I need to know I'm having an impact on people. Otherwise, I will have wasted my time. Otherwise, why the hell am I doing this? Now, maybe part of that's my own sense of like dramatic hyperbole, and I'm wired for like the 3-ring circus I talked about. And in fact, the whole production, just even the idea of production, I fucking love. I love a good production. For Christ's sakes, I have a button that when I press it, it's like, it's a birthday horn, for Christ's sake. I love production. It makes me very happy. It's made me happy for 2 decades. It will continue to make me happy. So any kind of big thing like that, I'm wired for. I need to know somebody's out there listening. I need to know somebody's out there caring. I need to know someone appreciates me. Now, there's a load of different deep therapeutic reasons why I struggle with those things. And if you were with me today, you encountered some of them. but you weren't, so you missed out again. The important thing I'm saying, other than please don't be in the backseat of my car when I'm having like massive breakthroughs with my therapist, the important thing I'm saying is that you don't know the effect your art is having. And part of your creative process, part of your creative endeavor, needs to account for the fact that you won't know the impact you fully have. I put a thing out on YouTube. My most popular video, my most popular stream, was the one from early November. So you're going to go do NaNoWriMo. And I guarantee you, I drew people in because I stuck the NaNoWriMo logo on the thing. That had 31 views. According to the metrics, people stuck around 4 minutes and then bailed. 4 minutes. So I went back and I listened, and I know exactly which 4 minutes they stuck around for. The 4 minutes where I was talking about how, useful and positive writing consistently can be. But the minute it turned into, you don't need NaNoWriMo, there they go, right out the door. Right out the door. Like a fart in the breeze, they're gone. And they didn't stay for the back half. They didn't stay for the part where it's like, here's what you can do instead. Here's how you can turn any day into NaNoWriMo. And the YouTube watch statistics are real sporadic. When I start swearing, or when I start really hitting like a good heated point, my views tend to go up. I'm pretty sure that's the algorithm rewarding my baser instincts. And when I start getting really technical, like in my least watched video, which was MPOV, multiple arcs and everything, which had a whopping, at the time I checked this morning, 4 views, and I'm pretty sure I was one of them. Had the deeper I go and the more structural I get, and the more like, hey, this is how you do a thing, the less traction I get, the less algorithmic response I get. And that can lead you to really question the impact you're having. So if you're ever, for whatever reason, let's play the hypothetical game, right? Let's suppose one day the plague abates, and for whatever reason, I get to live out my dream in a large commune with, like reasonably nice people and fruit and a lack of like really disgusting insects and clean dirt, if that makes sense, like good, fresh farming earth, and a lack of traffic and good internet access. So, a pipe dream. But let's suppose I'm there, and the important thing is that if you were around all day, you'd hear me go through the process I go through when I make a stream. And it is essentially the verbal, clear off the desk level, talk to myself level process that perhaps you go through when it comes time to make notes or figure out what the hell your next project's going to be, or to start to sketch it out, or to talk to yourself and complain about, oh my God, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been trying for 2 weeks to write 10 words, and here we go. Exact same process, except where you're typing and then deleting as you write, I'm pacing, wondering, okay, no, I'm going to say this. No. Start over. I lost the train of thought sucks. Start over. Coming this way. And I tried again. Nope, that sucked. Delete it. Try again. Again, we can go all the way back to John, take your own advice and just say it all at once. And then go back and edit it. But at the same time, here's an interesting wrinkle. Here is a thing. Maybe it's because of the pandemic. Maybe it's because of stress. Maybe it's because of age. Maybe it's because of a billion different factors. My once very vaunted short-term memory is shot. And so if I start talking like at length, for more than 15 minutes just on one undisturbed thought, it is very likely I have lost some percentage of the opening 30 seconds. Either I've lost the specific phrasing I wanted to use, or I've wandered a little from the point. And that can really impact how I get my idea across, which has a direct relationship to how I stream. Because if you watch all the here's how you stream successfully in 20 fill in the year from some Twitch person, and they're talking to video game kids, they're going to tell you that all about like what are called stream windows, the best amount of time to maximize how long you put your ass in the chair and do the thing and what you're supposed to do, and how frequently you press the buttons to change the pictures and have this and organize this and have your this and that and all that stuff. And it becomes this very regimented thing. Now, about 70% of that doesn't apply to me because I'm just a dude talking into a microphone and I'm old enough to be their dad. And I'm not playing a video game, so I don't have to worry about half that shit. But at the same time, I still have to follow some of their rules because that's how the algorithms run. And if I can't manage a train of thought, if I have trouble getting my idea across, what impact does that have for my art on my audience? If I can't get my story out, if I can't push myself when I'm stuck or when I'm stalled or when I'm frustrated to just put something on the page, what is that going to do for my art and for my audience? If I don't record, it bugs me. It chafes. It sucks. I'm extra grumpy, which is saying something. But it also means I don't get a chance to voice a certain idea I had in my head, and I have no other outlet, because if I just talk to the cats, they'll walk away. So I need this. Likewise, I think you writers out there have your outlets and should take advantage of them. And there are times where you need to, not always, but there are times where you do need to push. Not always. You can't always, smash your face up against exhaustion or mental health issues or fatigue or the plague or whatever. Sometimes you legit need to sit down and have a glass of water. But other times where it's just self-doubt, that resistance we talked about, you can push. Turn this slightly down a little bit. It's a little loud in my ears. And how you push and where you go and how long you do it and everything. And what I see as an extension of the algorithm feeds into what I've started to call budgeting. Because, and I'm not talking financial. That's probably at some point going to be its own stream. Because I don't have a lot of money, but I can tell you where almost all of it goes. And that's an acquired difficult skill. I didn't always have that. Again, see previous comment where somebody told me I didn't have any visual sense. People told me I had no financial sense for years, and I just believed them, so I lived down to that expectation. But that's a different story for a different day. But this concept of budgeting is the idea of parceling out your focus, your attention, your effort, your sort of technique, and your practice to get across what you're trying to say. So maybe that's, sometimes it's why I needed these Post-it notes. And it's sometimes why, like on a Wednesday, I will pace practically a groove in the carpet trying to figure out the best way to tell somebody, hey, here's the answer to your question, without, either making it a 2-sentence, no, you're fine, keep writing, and turning it into something substantial that someone can listen to and benefit from. Or going through it because it has 10 parts to the question, or there's lots of little terms or whatever. It takes practice, and you have to learn how to budget. Because sitting down to write is very, very rarely only sitting and only writing. We know this. We very rarely talk about it. Sometimes sitting down and writing turns into, well, I got to sit down and write, and I got to figure out what to say, and I got to figure out where I left off, and I got to figure out how to do this with A, B, C, D, E, F, and G stressors going on, and oh, don't forget about this, and oh, don't forget about that distraction. And then I got to think about how to tie this together with the stuff I haven't written and tie it together with the stuff I did write. And then, oh, by the way, when I write it, I need to write it well. And we kind of dump all that together under, I'm just going to sit down and write. And I think there are times when it would really be a huge benefit, a service to us, if we actually sat down and accounted for all the bells and whistles. Oh my God, you're going to sit down and write. That's amazing, because you're going to deal with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 25 things up in the air. Good for you. That's great. Cool. Have some air horns. We should do that all the time. I don't know why we don't. That's one of those things I'm going to take forward into 2022. So I try to do that more often. But budgeting is a really critical skill. Not just because we're in a plague, not just because we're all suffering massive levels of isolation, depression, crushing angst, crushing doubt, financial poverty, capitalism, patriarchy, ableism, phobias, etc., but also generally because, it's hard to make art. It's just hard. Loads of people... Actually, you know what? I'm going to highlight this with an example. I had a great meeting with somebody about a year ago. Maybe a little bit more than a year. It's December now, so year and a half. Let's say a year and a half ago. It's probably closer to 2 years, but that doesn't matter. Long time ago, I had a meeting with somebody who said to me, "Oh man, you know what would be great? You know what would absolutely be great if there was a Western on television that played a lot more like Oregon Trail and less like, oh my God, it's Melrose Place." We were two older people. We're dating ourselves. I know. Less like Melrose Place where everybody happened to be dressed like a cowboy. And I'm like, yeah, that would be a great idea. You should sit down and write that idea. And it turned into like, well, how would I do it? And so we hooked. We got some research going. We had some notebooks going. I was giving out ideas. We were laying stuff out. And like all things that need follow through, it doesn't always get follow through. So it just sort of went by the wayside. They picked up other projects. They got busy elsewhere. They found success elsewhere. Good for them. But that idea just kind of went over there. So the other day I'm sitting down and I'm about to watch like 1 hour of television because I genuinely don't get a real chance to sit and do that until it's either late at night and I'm kind of sort of not awake, or it's very early in the morning and I'm waiting for work to start. And I'm watching this and I get this promo for this show called 1883 or Yellowstone 1883. It's about to be streaming for free on Paramount Plus, which used to be CBS All Access. And I'm watching the show, and it looks a hell of a lot like the Oregon Trail, and less like Melrose Place dressed as cowboys. And so I'm looking at the credits like, oh shit, did the person I talked to finally like do this? No, not at all. They're not even anywhere near it. It looks good. I'll probably watch an episode or two. I don't know if it's weekly or bingeable. But I'll give it a try. I'll give it a shot. But they didn't write it. They're not anywhere near it. I haven't even told them it's a thing that got made, because they'll probably just tell me, I should have jumped on this. Anyway. Budgeting and following through with an idea might not have changed the landscape so much. Like, it wouldn't be their name on the show. But they'd at least have a greater sense of satisfaction. It wouldn't have been a half-started idea that didn't follow through. And there wouldn't be that twinge for either of us, like, oh, that could have been you, man. Like, that could have been you. It could have been me. I could have sat down and write. I started writing again this year. I wrote every day for about 7 or 8 weeks. I stopped because I ended up having more editing to do, which is fine. But all the same, it was hard. And budgeting becomes critical. One of the first streams for 2022 is on the budgeting process. I don't have a graphic for it yet. It's half started in Canva. If you were looking at the monitor, it's in the background here on the screen, but you can't see. The point is that ability to engage resources in a accountable way, rather than just slap it all out there and do whatever and then retreat and then try it all again and generate all this interest and then lose and then try, right? All or nothing versus something methodical. Methodical is going to win. It's going to be less fun. It's going to be less glamorous. Methodical wins. It's just persistence. It's a war of attrition. And that's the strategy I get here with streaming. I know I know. There's what, 15 or 16 videos, I think, on the YouTube channel. You don't have to run over there and check. I'm illustrating a point. I know as I get into 30, 40, 50, 60 videos, there are going to be some videos eventually somewhere that remain in the ones and twos of views with maybe one or two people in chat. I will have to intellectually and emotionally gird myself. Gird? Is that the word I want to use? Yeah, gird, fortify. I want to fortify myself against the idea of like, there's just one person in chat. But all the same, it is what it is because it's more important that the stuff, the art I make, goes out into the world. That lesson came from streaming. Because if I weren't streaming and you were to ask me sort of more or less the same idea, I would tell you that the things I do have to go out into the world because otherwise I don't eat, which is true. But sometimes, especially since I've been streaming and since I've been enjoying it and letting myself enjoy it, we'll get there in a second, that's why I have to do what I do, because I like doing it. It feels weird when I don't. I don't have a very big audience. I tend to have the same audience in this space that I have in other spaces, and I'd love to grow both everywhere. But here we are all the same. I like doing this. I don't want to stop doing this. I, like any other writer, like any other creative, would love to wake up one day and be the person who has like, oh my God, it's your day and you get 10,000 majillion new people and here's like a boatload of cash and here's this and that and the other. I'd love that because shit, man, that couch, have you seen it? It's got like a fucking dent in it. I got to figure out how to fix it this weekend. Yeah, I'd love that. But it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? Take my own advice. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a marathon of marathons. Streaming is my new marathon. Finishing your first draft might be your marathon. Starting your third draft might be your marathon. Sitting down and actually doing the thing you say you're going to do in 2022 rather than making some bullshit performative resolution where someone pats you on the head might be your marathon. I don't know. You're you. I'm me. We're all different. But again, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere with that if I wasn't happy doing this. Because if I wasn't happy doing this, I'd honestly, I can tell you exactly what I'd be doing. I'd be deeply researching cat litter and different cat waste removal and cleaning products, which I'm sure now the algorithm will hear and like give me ads on a million different things for, which is amusing. But I'd be spending more time trying to figure out how to make my cat poop nicer. And I'd be hyper worried about it because I wouldn't have anything else because it's either my cats or work or stuff around the house or any of the 8 million other stressors. I don't have a release valve. Streaming became my release valve. When your art becomes a release valve, there's a good side, yay, more art, and a bad side, hey, I'm not getting any response to my art. My release valve, and therefore me, or I, must not have a lot of value. That's the big, giant, tricky, oh no, fire the red alert sound. Because your value, your person, you, insert your name here, you have value that exceeds and transcends your art. Yes, your art will outlive you. We live in a digital, hyper-complex world. Your art will outlive you. But you are greater than the sum of your arts. See what I did there? That's a fucking pun. That's a pun for you assholes. You're welcome. Mainly that's for two people on the podcast who left me a note saying I got to make more puns and dad jokes. So that's for you guys. Ha ha. Anyway. And if you're wondering if I spent more than an hour on that joke in the car, totally did. So yeah, you are worth more than the sum of your arts. No, I will not put that on a t-shirt. Maybe. But you are worth more than the sum of your arts, and you matter more than that. And your use of art as a way to vent the pressures and bring yourself relief from whatever else you got going on is fine and valid and good, even if no one notices, especially when no one notices, because the primary benefiter, the person who benefits the most from you doing that is you, not them. I don't know who the them is. Maybe the them is, 5 people you know. Maybe the them is the people you want to have suddenly tell you that you're doing a good job, or that they're proud of you, or that they love you, or that, they totally thought about you this morning. I don't know. Other human beings, The most important person who benefits from the relief you feel in your art is you, because you're the one who needs the relief. Streaming for me is a relief. I benefit from it. I feel better when I do it. I'm tired when I do it, but I feel I've accomplished something that I would not otherwise be challenged to accomplish. So, yeah. Thus ends part 1 of this. I'm going to get another mouthful of tea. There are quite a few of you in chat. Hello. Questions? Anything? I'm going to try and move my head away from the microphone to drink, because I know one of you, 2 of you, somebody listened to a stream and was like, you drink too loud. I don't know what that means, but so I'm going to move my head now, and it sounds like this. I hope that made you happy. Anyway. We're good? Hello, hi. It's nice to have you. I am supposed to do now my algorithmic duty. By pointing out, I got to make myself laugh in some ways. By pointing out some of the following things. If you're enjoying this content, feel free to follow. It's free. If you'd like to support it, a single sub means the world. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can use your 1 free Prime Twitch sub. I'd be delighted to be the consumer of your 1 free Twitch sub. Actually, it wouldn't be for me. It would be probably for Luna, who seems to like that noise more than Linus. Mostly the cats directly benefit from the money raised from streaming. The tips, by the way, if for some reason you ever do leave a tip, please know that money is spent immediately, like in 2 days, probably on cat food or on the shipping for cat food, because holy shit, that stuff gets crazy lately because pandemic. We'll complain about that at some point. That's a capitalism thing. Cat food was like $36, and one guy was trying to tell me that shipping was going to be like $45. And I'm like, bro, you're like, can I just drive to your store and get it? Because you're in town. Like, I'll get in the car. I was just trying not to leave the house a second time. Whatever. Anyway, that's just John complaining about life in the wilderness. On to part 2. Here's how I do what I do, because somebody asked. And my challenge to you, the listener, whether you were listening to this on the podcast feed, you're checking this out on YouTube, you're checking this out on Spotify, you're checking this out wherever it is you get your fine podcast, or you're checking it out here in Zoom chat, please think about how this stuff immediately parallels your process. It's not going to be one-to-one. So you might have to stretch and think a little bit, and I'll try to explain things broadly enough. But think about how what I'm about to talk about lines up with how you do what it is you do. Usually usually it's Thursday, I start thinking about what it is I'm going to do come Monday. Now, the reason I think about it on Thursday is because on Thursday is usually the end of my work week. On Thursday, if I haven't already, I record for Patreon. By the way, Patreon people, this week it's the new Matrix movie, so get really fucking hype. I record for Patreon, and that goes out on Friday. And once I schedule that to go out, I immediately if I haven't already started, I immediately start thinking about the Wednesday night chat, because that is sort of like the big centerpiece of my week. And that requires a great deal of time and effort, because I gotta, go through social media. I gotta talk to my friends. I gotta find my resources and put together 12 questions to cover every week, and make sure I haven't asked those questions in the same 4-week stretch. I try not to repeat things as much as possible, which is difficult on a weekly basis. But it's Friday, and I'm thinking about Wednesday. And then usually after I start sketching out 2 or 3 questions to kind of take that itch away and kind of press that button a little bit, I'm like, oh, well, Monday is coming, and I know I need to do this on Monday. My streaming time is Monday. What am I going to do on Monday? And I immediately start thinking about 2 things. One, is this going to be a big, complicated thing? Are there going to be a lot of moving parts? And 2, what's the graphic going to look like? Why is it these 2 wildly different things? Oh my God, I have to write chapter 15. I wonder how I'm going to describe the horses. I wonder how I'm going to talk about the weather. I wonder what funny dialogue I'm going to give the funny secondary character. Why do I care about the graphic? Because I like making graphics. I do. It's weird. I get this strange sense of satisfaction figuring out oh, I like that font. How can I fuck with that font? How do I make things have shadows? How do I make things stand out? What visual things can I steal from pop culture? Cool. How do I learn how to do that? Because I like teaching myself things. And there have been times, and maybe you can tell based on the recordings, where I've made a graphic first and then kind of built the concept around it. And sometimes that works great. Sometimes it doesn't. But I started thinking about the graphic, and I started thinking about the topic. And then Saturday comes along. Well, I go through Friday and I hash it out. Saturday comes along and I look at the graphic and I make a pretty snap decision. Yep, cool, we're on the right track. Or I scrap it and I spend most of my morning struggling with nah, what if it's brown? What if it's green? What if it's orange? What if I call it this? What if I call it that? What if I make this metaphor? What if I do this? And I start shredding it, just tearing it to hell to pieces. Again, we're barely scratching the surface. But usually after about 3 or 4 hours of just banging my head against the desk, grumping at things, just stomping around, trying to figure out what to do, I eventually, do something away from the desk. Take a shower, go to the, bring the groceries in from delivery, go to the store if I have to, do some laundry, play with the cats, stare off into space, whatever. And then the idea sort of settles, whatever it was. Oh, I could come at it this way. Whatever way it is. I could do this. I could try this. Well, what about this way? What about that thing? Sometimes this is precipitated by a conversation I see to, let's call them, how do we put this nicely? What's the nicest way to say? Fucking idiots. 2 fucking idiots on the internet are having, and I want to step in and coconut slap their heads together because it's irritating. But then I'm like, nah, I'm not even going to bother because it's just gonna aggravate me and I don't want to get my blood pressure up that high. So what I'm going to do is take the thing they're talking about and I'll just stream about it. Because it's sort of like a subtweet that way. And 2, it gives me something to talk about. So I find different ways to weave things together. Because I am nothing if not, a big child sometimes. So I take this idea and I start piecing it out. There's my late Saturday. Now, Sunday, in the fall, in the autumn for me, is football. I love football. I've loved football for years. I've loved it even more now that, I can watch it without commercials thanks to, the NFL Red Zone channel. I like football. I like hockey too, but I tend to watch more football in the fall. And I don't do a lot of work during the morning, and at least until lunch, because there's football to watch. I watch a little bit of the informational stuff. I'm in a fantasy league with my brother. It's a different kind of nerdiness. I'm just sort of there because they need to fill out an even number. But, I'm trying. It's sort of fun. I almost won once. I'm probably the only one in the group that doesn't have a gambling problem, but that's a different stream for a different day. The fact remains that it's an interesting kind of dude culture thing. And I so seldom feel like I'm tapped into that. So that's nice. So I watch football. But then lunch comes around and I'm like, okay, time to go work, time to go do stuff on a Sunday. Do I have any Monday appointments to prep for? Do I have any urgent things I need to handle? If not, it's time to start working on the Monday night topic. And then I sit down for another 2 to 3, maybe even a 4-hour chunk. And then when I say a 4-hour chunk, I'm getting up every 15 minutes. I'm retrieving a cat, getting them into trouble, getting them out of trouble, getting a glass of water, going to the bathroom, trying to figure out what music to put on in the background. Like I'm in the office, but I'm not like shackled to the chair. But I'm doing this thing, and I start thinking. And once the idea starts to germinate, I get up out of the chair and I start pacing, because that's my process. I pace, I juggle, not well, but I try. I bounce a ball against the wall. I, toss beanbags on the bed. I, play with the cat until the idea starts to loosen up in my head and I can start to manipulate it. And eventually it comes together. Okay, I'm happy with this. Let's do another section. What about this? What about this? Say this, try this, come to here, come to there. And it starts to take a loose shape. And I reach this moment, in every stream, or in every prep for every stream. John, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea, brain. Write it down just like this before you forget it. And I will often say this next to a pad and pen, or it's in my hand. But do I write it down? It's like maybe 30% of the time I write it down. Or if I do, I write myself, like, let me give you a note for a stream that I didn't go with. Here's the note I wrote to remind me of what to say some Monday. ZORT, all capitals, like an acronym. ZORT. What the hell was I going to say that was ZORT? I have no idea. But at the time, it totally made sense. Do I remember what it is now? No idea. Shrug. So you need to be aware that when you're crafting and you're shaping your ideas and you're doing this and you're doing that, be aware of your process, of how you produce, and capitalize on it. Would it really have been so bad if I sat down and wrote out at length, okay, I'm going to talk about this, and ZORT equals, and I spelled it out. Would it really have ruined everything? No. Probably only would have benefited. Because what do I say that starts with a Z? Zoom? Maybe? I don't know. But could have done so much. Could have been a lot of things. Think about your process. Think about what you do. Think about ways not to automate it into oblivion or automate it in some kind of weird competitive sense. Oh, well, you do it this way, I do it that way. Because no one gives a shit. There's no prize. There's no like, oh, you get the purple ribbon because your process is 3-point-something% more efficient. Than, like, no one cares. But think about how you do your process, whatever it is you do, and think about how you can facilitate parts of it where you can get more growth from it. And that's probably the tech bro-iest way I've ever tried to explain it. So let me try and come at it like a normal human being who has a heart. When you do whatever it is you do, to whatever degree you do it, no matter how you do it, there are points in that process, links in that chain, that you could do differently that would benefit you. Like for me, I could sit down and I could write out whatever the hell the little acronym was or whatever the little crazy notes I leave myself are. I could take an extra 10 seconds while I'm thinking of that idea and write it down so that the next day or a few hours later when I look at the note, I'm like, yeah, that's still a cool idea. I'm down with it. Let's go. As opposed to looking at it later and trying to decode whatever the hell it was I was talking about. Maybe you, when you're writing whatever it is, or you're sketching out whatever it is, you're trying to figure out, like, okay, this is going to be this is going to go here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. take that extra 10 seconds and give yourself more notes. Or take a second and catch your breath and maybe delete some of the over-architecting, the overwriting you're doing. Just catch your breath and take a step back and reevaluate and figure out where in your process you have room to improve that process in small, productive ways. If you want a streaming version of this, I used to use a piece of software called Streamlabs Obs, also called Slobs. Now, I used Slobs because it's really sort of designed for people who don't know the first goddamn thing about streaming. It is software you literally fire up, type something in, click a couple buttons, and you go. It manages chat. It manages all the windows. It manages all the scaling and the sizing of stuff. And I can type right on the screen, and I can do all the things I want to do. It is built by a company called Streamlabs. It is based on a piece of software called OBS. OBS is an entirely different company. Streamlabs sort of took their shit and slapped their own name on it. And it became quite a bit of a kerfuffle on the internet when it also found out that Streamlabs had been doing that for lots of other things. They just sort of yoink, and it's mine in that sort of hyper-capitalist theft, productive way, to where I realized I didn't want to have to spend the money I was spending on their stuff when the material they were taking is free, because it's free. And I feel a lot better giving support to the free people who are working hard as opposed to supporting the people who are exploiting the free. That's just a John thing. So I moved from Slobs to OBS. Has it been harder? Yes. In the sense that I have to click more things and it takes 10 extra seconds for me to figure out, like, oh, that's where I got to type this. Or, oh, I have to link that. But I'm at a point now where, thanks to all the machinery I have, I can literally press a button and change a screen without ever having to, like, click and right click and then click and then click and then press enter, which is what I had to do in Slobs. This, infinitely easier, infinitely more flexible, but it didn't start that way. The process I had was good up to a point, but I needed to change that because I needed to change what I was doing so that I could accomplish what I wanted. How you might be writing right now might have been a holdover from how you were writing sometime in the past, and you haven't really given yourself the freedom to grow because you've stayed with what's worked. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But, and this isn't so much a giant Sir Mix-a-Lot size butt as it is like a medium-sized butt, like a partial athletic butt. But changing that process to some degree might facilitate you to do bigger, better things that you didn't think you could do, but all of a sudden can. So I make this jump from Slobs to OBS, and all of a sudden, oh my God, I do have all this extra stuff to deal with, but I also gain tremendous functionality. I have the ability to write, titles and notifications, and I can organize where the streams are seen, and I can really control all the data and the metrics for how streams are produced, and I can, dump it this way and flip it this way and process. I can do more things. It's not just kind of like, throwing a dartboard in the, throw a dart in the dark and hope I hit the board. It's much more under my sway, and I like that as somebody who, wants a sense of control in their art. But I never would have done that had I just stayed with Slobs. Right about, oh God, I think it was today, tomorrow maybe. They would have billed me for my re-up. It had been a couple months. The subscription was due to get, dinged, and it would have been $100 that I don't have. And then, I'd be, probably writing them a very nice email. Hey guys, you got to understand, I get paid, there's some money coming in January. Can we, please don't, turn me off, and we'll make it work. But I don't have to do that now. And I'm very pleased. And I like this control. It did mean I had to learn a few more things. But at the end of the day, Is that really so bad? Yes, stepping out into unfamiliar territory initially feels weird. Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah, it's new, and new might be weird, and there could be, saber-toothed monsters lurking behind every corner, and who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But what do I gain? If I just go look at the scary stuff, I'll be scared, and I won't change, and I won't grow, and I won't push. But if I look at what I've got in my favor, oh man, I have the ability to completely move things on the screen. I can put literally anything I want anywhere I want. And as long as I'm not violating the general terms of service, I have enormous latitude. I can put the music I want in the position I want to the degree I want. Oh, I can do, I do all kinds of stuff. This is pretty great. So, yeah, pleased. Enormous control. Sometimes when you step out of that comfort zone, you got to look at the tools you're bringing with you and the intention you have and the plan you have to go forward with them, and look at that more frequently and in more depth than the, oh my God, this is scary on the other side. Because it's still scary. It doesn't stop being scary just because it's new. Like, yeah, I have this tool, but so what? It's still new. I still might fuck it all up. This still might not go anywhere. Sorry for the ding. Yeah, I'll reply to that text later. I guess it's a good segue to talk about the fear. Because I am somebody who will drag ass on tons of shit because of some amount of fear I have. Oh, well, if I jump on it now, I can get it done, but maybe I could do it better if I waited and did more research or did this or did that, or, I should wait till they're sure, or, I shouldn't try that new thing I want to do because, it might not work. I will find different ways, and maybe you do this too, I will find different ways to justify my inaction more than I will provide possible ways to talk about the benefits. I will talk myself out of something rather than talk up the possible reward. And that was another lesson learned from streaming. Because sometimes I do sit here and it's just me, or it's not me and I have no idea. Like right now, one of the major things I lost when it came to jumping from Slobs to OBS, Slobs had this very nice counter at the top corner of the thing telling me you have this many viewers. And every streamer tells you not to stare at it. Everybody's like, don't stare at it, don't talk about it. It's like the boogeyman or the weeping angel from Doctor Who. If you don't pay attention to it, or if you pay attention to it the wrong way, it'll come get you, that kind of thing. But I was always comforted by that because that way I knew I wasn't just like, doing this for nothing, air quotes. But now here I have to click several things in order to get that number. And I'm looking at it and I realize that instead of just giving me a number, it's giving me names. And that doesn't do me a whole lot of good because I don't know names. Like I know a few because you've named yourself the same thing you've named yourself elsewhere and I can put two and two together. Or you've named yourself something pretty similar to, things I've seen you with elsewhere. And I can go, oh, that's you from over there. Okay, cool. But by and large, on the most part, it's different. And I probably pay too much attention to it. Because I let that fear of like, well, what are you doing and what response are you getting? What matters? What's going on? Are you doing it right? Are you good enough? I let that stuff drive way too often. Because in terms of being a writing stream, I'm, according to the metrics, sometimes I'm the best one. Because I'm also, at the time, one of the only ones. And other times, I'm not. Because other writing streams are legit people typing. And that's cool. I'd be really freaked out because, I don't know, my keyboard has a lot of cat hair. And it just, like, I vacuum the shit out of it. And, like, no. It just doesn't occur to me to do that. But I'll sit here and talk to you for 2 hours. That's fine. But I let that fear get in the way. And there was a big fear when I got started in streaming. Like, oh, well, I'm never going to, this is, I don't need 10,000 people tomorrow. It'd be great, but I'll settle for 1,000 today and 10,000 next week. And no, 31 was the best because I kicked Nano in the teeth, but then they ran away. But it still counted because they came, at least once. The second most, by the way, was the other week when I made the go live notification. John mentioned you in chat, and that pulled people in. But how often can I always do that before people realize that I'm fucking with them? Like, how many times can I go to the well on something? When you're creating, whenever you're creating, when you're making that art and creating whatever it is you're doing, don't get lost in those metrics. Don't get lost to the fear of, well, I'm just throwing this out there and no one's going to care. Put your effort instead to, I am making this thing the best it can be so that somebody somewhere who I don't know can somehow at some point see this and get some kind of reaction. Because when it comes down to it at the end of the day, the whole thing of this, the reason why I'm streaming in the first place was to put this stuff on YouTube. Because YouTube pays better than Twitch. It's just that YouTube has a much higher curve to acquire the things you need in order to make some kind of income. You need X number of subscribers, you need X number of hours of material, you need X number of hours watched from people. And so it's all about sort of building that catalog. Also, the nice thing about YouTube is instead of me answering, how do I write a query letter, I can point you to a video that explains it so that I don't have to, what you're going to do is take the thing and divide it in thirds and blah, blah. Like, I don't have to give the same answer 20 times. It's nice. But Twitch started off as just sort of a means to an end, and it has become instead part of the process that I really enjoy. It is an end to itself. It's part of the art. It's part of the process. And I've both had to embrace it in terms of, like, I'm doing this to go further down this chain of links. I'm also doing it because I like this particular link too. I wasn't expecting that. I'm struck immediately as I sit here and look at all my counters to make sure that, like, all my shit's working, that I have rambled for an hour and 17 minutes. Actually, if you really want to know, there's about a 2 to 3 minute leader for the podcast feed. So I've been really rambling for an hour and 20-ish minutes. But hopefully you'll bear with me. I should, at this moment, then probably tell you what's going to happen for the rest of 2021 and then move into 2022 and keep talking. So let's just, for the moment, pause and we'll do some housekeeping. So this is what you are listening to right now, the last Monday night stream for 2021. The very last stream for 2021 will be Wednesday, December 22nd, is the very last stream for 2021. I am not around online from December the 23rd through January the 11th. I will be back streaming on January 12th. Between, those two windows, I'm around because I've got stuff to work on and stuff to do, but I'm not streaming. I'm going to try and keep the work to a very super minimum because there's loads of other stuff I've been meaning to do and needing to do, and it takes more time, and I just want to, and there's stuff I got to plan, and there's stuff. I want to take a nap. I want to sleep in a couple days. I want to go to bed early a couple nights. I want to play some video games. I want to hang out a little bit. I want to see some family who I haven't seen in 2 years. Like, there's definitely some stuff worth doing. But that means I got to take a break. So I'm wrapping this stuff up, trying to package up all my ideas. And that has led to a sort of rambling, meandering sense of this. So if you were expecting something more concrete, I apologize. But here we are all the same. So to repeat, and I'll repeat this again on Wednesday, this is the last Monday night stream. Wednesday is the last stream of the year. We'll be back in January. Will things change? Like, will there be all new stuff? I mean, there'll be new graphics. Like, it'll say 2022 on things. But by and large, we're just taking a break. The process continues. There'll still be Monday night streams. Some will still be big and complicated. Some will be simple, whatever. There will still be Wednesday night chats. They're still going on. Nothing really changes. It's just that I'm taking 2 weeks to go do other stuff. And if you need me, clients, you have my phone. You can text me. You can call me. You can email me. No problem. Just, I'm not going to stream because one of the things I have to do is clean the hell out of this room. And that means unplugging everything and sort of vacuuming. And it's a nightmare underneath this desk right now. So we're gonna fix some of this stuff up too. Okay. Housekeeping done. Back to it. So, where did we leave off? Talked about time. Right. We are up to a very brief section. So we might be out of here at 8:30. We might be out of here in like 10 minutes. Who knows? We'll find out together, I guess. We're going to talk about expectation. I've danced around it somewhat, but I had an expectation that I'd hit this thing like a house on fire and take off, and it would be off to the races and be amazing. And that has not entirely been the case. Now, I will say it has not been. It is. There have been successes. There have been good things. I have met some great people. I've had a chance to work with some great individuals on some great projects. I'm very satisfied in the short time I've been streaming with people. It's fun. I like doing it. Cool. But did the quantity of work match the expectation I had? No. And that's the sort of thing that used to bug the hell out of me. Because I always assumed, like, oh my God, I'm me. People should line up 20 deep to come talk to me. They don't. They never have. And honestly, I've been in rooms where people have lined up 20 deep, and it kind of freaks me out a little bit. So, yeah, it's not really about that. I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied. And that distinction is really critical. And that's a distinction I really want to get across to you with your work and your expectations. Be happy with the art you're making. Resist the temptation to nitpick and doubt and question every letter and every syllable of every word and every dot of ink or dot of little light on the screen that represents a letter or a character. You don't have to shred it apart in order to be happy. You can be happy that you're making it. You can be happy that you're in progress. You can be happy that you've gotten so much done. You can be happy that you're this much closer to where you want to go. But you don't need to be satisfied. And that's a real important distinction, because sometimes we reverse this and say you want to be satisfied but not necessarily happy. And I'm starting to lose my grip on that. You've listened to a lot of writing advice podcasts and stuff, and mine is definitely one of the best. Well, thank you. That actually means a lot, because we'll talk about that in a second. I want to put a pin in that. I want to finish this one thought I had about expectation before it runs away from my brain. That's really sweet. Thank you. I used to tell everybody, be satisfied, not happy, because I was conflating the idea of satisfaction with complacency. The idea that, you don't want to stop and rest. You don't want to just be like, it's fine, it's good enough, and move on with your day. Because I assumed wrongly that everybody was going to take the easiest way out, the first exit on the off-ramp. Yeah, that's the right metaphor, right? the easy short way out, the lowest hanging fruit, and then, they'd move on. And that I was not giving people enough credit. And you need to. You really need to, because if given a chance, people will surprise you positively depending on the environment you foster for them. So rather than assume your readers are looking to bail away at the first sign of trouble, rather than looking or thinking that your reader is looking for a reason to stop reading, rather than thinking everybody's looking for a reason to reject you or reveal to you the somehow truth that everybody knows except you, that you're somehow, terrible at this and you've wasted your time, ha 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 ha, or whatever maniacal laughter you think fuels or fills the headspace of other people. None of that matters. I don't know how to say it. I've tried to find a profound way of mic dropping this, but it doesn't matter, because it's not about complacency. Sometimes you just have to get the idea out of your head and let it be whatever it is, and it has nothing to do with complacency, because it's about completion. You have this tough thing to write. I don't want to write this scene. I don't know how to write this scene. I got to get this beat in here. I got to outline the story. I got to do this. I got to move on this. I've been sitting here for 7 months. I've been sitting here for a year. I'm stuck with this thing. I'm stuck with that thing. Whatever. Just write something. Just something. Just something. Just a sentence. Can you do a sentence? I'm reasonably certain you can do a sentence. But then the response is, but I got to do more than a sentence, right? Yes. Eventually, you will have to do more than a sentence. But if we're trying to bust through this blockage, break through the dam and let the water, cascade past us, we gotta crack it somewhere, right? We can't just expect all of a sudden 20,000 words to come leaping from your brain, going from 0 to 20. That's not how this works. It's going to be a ramp up. It's going to take time to accelerate. So just for now, put a sentence down, maybe 2, maybe 3, just short, simple, sloppy, messy, something. Put something there. And you can be happy about that, because previously there was nothing there. And before you throw the switch, before you jump to judgment, well, I wrote 3 sentences, but they suck, John. Oh, this is fucking trash. What the hell? Before you do that, stop, back up, look back and go, previously there was nothing. That's where I was stuck. I'm no longer stuck there. Yes, I know you're stuck in a new spot, but you're at least no longer where you were. You can be happy about that, but not satisfied. How you produce and what you produce do not tie to your value, because you're still you. You're going to be you the same way that you were you when you had the blockage, when you didn't write for 2 weeks, when you didn't write for 7 months, when you stopped and came back, when you were stuck, when you were doing this, when you were doing that. You were always you. Nobody took it away from you. Nobody's going to take it away from you. Nobody can take it away from you. You can give it away, but again, that's a different stream for a different day. But the point I'm trying to make is you can be happy and not satisfied. Likewise, you can be satisfied. I did a thing. It's okay for now. And not happy. I'll go back later and fix it. But those two conditions don't normally coexist simultaneously about the same piece of writing at the same point. And this is not Schrodinger's manuscript where you are both satisfied and not satisfied at the same time. Writing is the act of making decisions. You get to pick what state you exist in about this, and fill in the blank, whatever part of the writing you're writing. You have to choose. You have to choose. You have to choose. Because if you let somebody else choose, first of all, if you let me choose, I'm going to big you up. I'm going to tell you that it's fucking awesome. Because there used to not be those words in those pages. There used to not be this idea that you've brought into existence. Look at you. You've wielded the literal powers of creation. That's rad. Good job. Have some air horns. Whereas somebody else might sit there and go, yeah, but your idea sucks, bro. And that's fine. I mean, they're entitled to that opinion. You don't have to internalize it or make it a staple of your personality or something, but whatever. What you want to do here is produce, and once you're done judging it, because of course you're going to judge it, you're human. Once you're done judging it, keep moving. I wrote a thing. It's not great, but I'm okay with it right now. That attitude, oh man, you can move mountains with that attitude. I'm okay with it right now. If given a chance, if given circumstance, I can go back and tweak and do this and do that. Cool, I will. But right now, I'm good with it. And then move on. And I guarantee you it's not as bad as you think it is. We are conditioned algorithmically, social media-wise, etc., to think that our production at first blush must suck. Because it didn't immediately get the pat on the head, the attention, the cookie, the gold star, the hearts, the whatevers right away. But again, think back to what we talked about an hour and about 15 minutes prior, where what we create exists with time dilation. We make a thing, and it's going to be a while before it affects somebody else. So in that interim, you sit down and worry about it, whether or not you're okay with it. It doesn't need to be perfect to be good. It doesn't need to be perfect to make an impact on somebody. It doesn't need to be perfect in order to sell. It doesn't need to be perfect in order to be published. It doesn't need to be perfect in order to exist in the universe. It doesn't need to be perfect in order to leave your brain. You can always make it better. It might take more work. You might be dissatisfied with doing that work, but it doesn't need to be perfect in order to be done. The more you chase perfect, the less you will accomplish. That's the other lesson here. Because I wanted to stream perfectly. I wanted a giant audience. I wanted hyper-technical stuff with multi-actions and switches and this and that. And I wanted like a big fucking Windows setup with like a big-ass tower and lots of RGB and lights and this and that and like a million things and, you know, big sweeping fucking camera tricks. And there's a few things wrong with that. One, I have a Mac, so that sort of, you know, does not lead me to have a Windows system anymore. Two, when I put this camera on me, I have a panic attack. So that makes it really hard to do big fancy camera tricks when the camera's not on. And three, I don't like setting any of those things up. They're a pain in the ass. They're a pain in the ass to troubleshoot, and they never do what I want them to do, because it doesn't matter if I have big fancy lights that change color when I press a button if I'm the only person who sees them because there's no camera on me. Does it make me happy that I can literally press this button and the light over here goes from slightly yellow to white and then back, which you can't see and I can? I think that's cool that I made a button do that. But at the end of the day, does that suddenly mean I understand slightly more about how to write a query letter or a synopsis? No. If you take a workshop about something really abstract, like plot twists in second person, if you're not writing in second person, or you're thinking about writing in second person, but you're not currently, is that going to suddenly tell you how to write chapter 15? Probably not. But it's nice that you know it. And that want and that expectation and that hope and that plan. Oh man, I got to do it perfectly. I got to get this done. I got to do this. It's got to be a big, bombastic thing. You're going to lead to frustration. You're going to lead to a lot of frustration. I wanted this Windows setup. I wanted a big fancy machine. I wanted this. I wanted that. No. I mean, I still want those things. They're great. But, you know, given the choice between like the $3,000 I would need for new gear and a new this and a new that and an extra monitor and a tower and cables and blah, 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 blah. $3,000 is 3.5 months of living expenses. I haven't had $3,000 in the checking account in a long ass time. So, yeah. You are in charge of your production. You are in charge of how you do what you do. You are in charge of the happiness it dispenses and the happiness it creates for you. I am 1,000,000,000% convinced that all of those things I knew to some degree, but it was streaming where I internalized them. It was streaming that made me confront them. It was streaming that made me sort of sit with them. It was streaming that made me deal with them and grapple with them and try to verbalize them. Because what used to happen in the before times, in the long, long ago when we used to be in person with places, people would hire me, groups would hire me, clubs and things, workshops, classes would hire me, and I'd come and I'd teach in person. And yeah, I'd give business cards and I'd do all this and that. But I could gauge visually from people, and I could engage in lots of different ways. I could swear, I could not swear. It is possible to get me to not to swear. I need like a 2-hour advance notice and a reminder, but it is possible. I just don't like doing it. The point I'm trying to make is that in the before times, I was pretty good at speaking because I could just talk. I had to talk. It was my job. And I could talk my way. Okay, so here I'm going to explain this. I'm going to explain that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And as things moved away, pandemic, stress, depression, life, etc., and I moved more out of the talking space and into other, like, oh my God, I got to take jobs to pay the bills space. My ability to verbalize and articulate these things waned. And I know if we're using a game analogy, I know my scores dropped, my stats dropped. I know they did. And one of the nice things about writing and streaming, and I don't know if it's a podcast, I've been uncomfortable and hesitant with that label, and I'm not sure why. I mean, I know I literally have a podcast feed that takes this audio and puts it out, so maybe this is a podcast. But I've always resisted like the mass label for all my stuff being a podcast. Like the Writer's Chat's the Writer's Chat. It's not the Writer's Chat podcast. There's something about that label that seems more organized than I intend, or it seems more structured than I intend. And I want that vibe of like, hey, we're just hanging out and you can just ask questions and do stuff and then go on your merry way. But I had to do something to get these skills back. Hang on, let me look at the list here. Yeah. None of you have ever lived with me. You didn't grow up with me. You're not related to me. I've never dated any of you, to the best of my knowledge. Let me look at the list again. Nope. Never dated any of you. Never dated your sisters or your siblings. Never dated your exes. Never dated your partners on the sly. None of the skeevy shit I used to do in my 20s. So none of you heard me day to day talk about this stuff. The same way that you might be talking about, oh yeah, I totally checked out that TV show. I talk about writing shit all fucking day. But I lost that. I lost a lot of that. The people I would talk to every day, we parted ways for a number of reasons. Mostly for good. Positive ones, I mean. And I didn't talk about it so much, but I typed it, I wrote it, I blogged it. And that was fine. But there's a definite skill gap. There's a definite chasm between how I would write it out and how I would say it. The same way that how you would say your book, you would read it aloud, is different than what you would type. Because when you speak, you have inflection. When you speak, you have volume. When you speak, you have a load of different techniques and tools to impart unto your listener how it is you want them to interpret the data or the statement or whatever, the argument, whatever you're making. Whereas in text, it's just got to be whatever it is on the page. And you can use different tricks, punctuation, italicization, that kind of thing, typography, etc., to sort of manipulate their understanding of it. But it's going to be two different sets of tools to accomplish more or less the same task. So I needed something to get back to, hey, this is how I'm going to do stuff. Enter streaming. Because now I get to talk. I love talking. I've missed talking. Talking makes me feel better. I mean, I'm in therapy 6 hours a week. No. Yeah, 6 hours a week. I had to count on my fingers. It's been a long day. I like talking. And I like talking about writing, and I like talking to writers. I super like when I talk to writers and they talk back. Because then I think everybody does that because that's how we communicate, because we're social monkeys. The hard part is getting over those stumbling blocks. You might love to read. You might be well versed in the source material you're referencing to create your material. You might be really well versed in your genre. You might be really well versed in just reading stuff in general and pop culture and memes and who knows what. And that's fucking amazing. Good for you. That's great. Good. I'm not being sarcastic. Good for you. You put good shit in your brain. Cool. Have air horns. But all the same, translating that so that another person gets it, understands it the way you intend. Not that you're just Xeroxing it. Hey, here's this, get this. But imparting it to them so that they can, to some degree, get a sense of it in the way that you do. You're not just explaining the meme to them. You are explaining the meme and putting that meme in their head for them to reference, so that much like a match spreading fire from match to match. That was a match sound, not my best sound effect. But you can spread that fire. You can spread that idea across. There is a viral concept to it. For me, speaking gets me back on that track. It is as somebody put it, it is the sorcery by which I bend the world to my will. Somebody told me that in 1998, and I have loved it ever since because it sounded fucking badass. My goal in 2022 is to make sure you find whatever sorcery you do to bend the world the ways you want. That's really important to me. That's why I do this. Not just because I like eating and stuff, but it's important to me that I facilitate the growth of art in the world. So streaming, podcasts, appointments, Patreon. That's how I do it. That's how I'm going to keep doing it. Those are all the things I learned in 2021. That, and I learned the real value of like good, healthy cat food, because it makes for better, healthier cats, which is unrelated to streaming, but certainly the most critical thing, because a healthy cat generally pukes less, which is less things for me to clean up at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Likewise, one slight here, hang on, cut the music. Here's the thing I learned. We're just gonna share this, you and me, right? Raid Shadow of Legends, whatever that thing is, they will literally ask anyone to sponsor them, because I have a viewership in the single digits, and they have asked me now 3 times to come advertise their stuff. I keep saying no. 1, because the money's really low, and 2, because I have no business advertising a mobile game. Because it's the wrong crowd. If you want to play a mobile game, play a mobile game. Make yourself happy. There's loads to choose from. There's literally a whole store about it. But yeah, I've noticed that advertisers and I don't always mesh. We're working on that for 2022. Anyway, back to the music. Okay. I don't have anything else, you guys. This was the extent of everything I had planned. I genuinely hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you've gotten something from this. I hope you have had a good day. I am so glad that after a long-ass day of me doing crazy level stuff, I was really glad I was able to get my ass in this chair and communicate, because I was really worried that I was going to get in this chair and just kind of blah at you, that it was just going to be like just constant party horn noises until like it had been 2 hours and I walked away, because I was worried I was going to be a blathering idiot. So thanks for listening. You guys are awesome. I love you all. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. Thanks to the new people who checked this out. By the way, if you ever want to help, like if you want to know what you can do to help grow this thing, and it doesn't involve you like spending money, the best thing you can honestly do, either send somebody to the YouTube channel or tell them to come Wednesday. Both of those things, super worth it. Super worth it. Until we talk next on Wednesday, do have a great night. Know that I love you, I care about you, and I want you to be well. Do something that makes yourself feel good. Have a glass of water, take your meds, get some rest. And I will talk to you on Wednesday. Have a good night. See ya.